What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be checking out a video from the Vaga brothers, 31 essential first-time Ireland travel tips. What are those things that you must know before you travel to Ireland for the very first time?
Ireland, the Emerald Isle, is a stunning country full of ancient history
and
beautiful. Some of the most warm people that you'll ever meet.
Top of the morning to you. Have you seen me pretty girls, mister? Huh? How about me potatoes?
What? Are you a walking stereotype?
No. I just wanted to, get us in the mood of things.
Nobody says top of the morning to you except for your annoying coworker on St. Patty's Day.
True.
Daily budget, high of 150 euros.
Ireland is one of our all-time...
The budget you were just mentioning was from
a few years back.
6 years ago or something.
Yeah, so yeah.
Sure, it's much higher.
Yeah,
time favorite destinations. Friendly locals, rugged, beautiful scenery.
Wow, look at that!
Cuisine that's one of the most underrated.
What is that
in
peninsula?
Europe.
Ireland holds one of the richest cultures in Europe, with over 7,000 years of history, from ancient burial grounds to Iron Age fortresses and some of the most intact ruins on the continent.
Ireland is a product of thousands of years of immigration and conquest. From the Celts, who gave the island its language, music, and the arts, to the Vikings who raided Ireland but built some of its largest cities, including Dublin. To the British, who ruled Ireland as a colony for nearly 800 years.
During the Dark Ages, Irish monks played a crucial role in preserving ancient knowledge, locking themselves up in remote monasteries like Skellig Michael, now famous from Star Wars: The Last Jedi, where they transcribed old books into beautiful manuscripts, such as the Book of Kells, which is on display at Dublin's Trinity College.
Today, just over 100 years after gaining independence from Britain.
All right, if you guys don't know, I'm sure a lot of you do, that this is the biggest library lover you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, we both like books, but she takes it to the next level.
I just really love libraries.
Yes.
All types.
But especially when they're old and beautiful, right?
Yeah. Old and beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ireland is really finding its stride as a travel destination. Here are some of the highlights.
Dublin, Ireland's capital, is much more than just a pub crawl. It's also a UNESCO City of Literature thanks to authors such as James Joyce and Oscar Wilde, as well as the capital of Ireland's bustling design scene.
Galway is the offbeat live music capital of the West Coast. It's the best place to discover traditional Irish music and sample some of Ireland's world-famous oysters.
From Galway, explore the wild Atlantic Way, the longest coastal scenic highway on Earth and one of the world's best road trips.
Hold on.
The longest scenic coastal highway on Earth?
In the entire world. Okay,
Yeah,
I have been told we need to check out the Atlantic Way or North Atlantic Way? What was it called? Whichever one it was called, I've been told we need to check out the Wild Atlantic Way, yeah. A lot of people have mentioned that. Okay, I did not know it was literally the longest coastal, what did it say? Coastal highway?
Scenic coastal highway.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Period. It's got everything from the cliffs of Moher to surf towns like Strand Hill and fishing villages like Kinsale in the south.
Down south, the food scene of Cork is not to be missed, not just in the city either. The farms and fjords of West Cork are the breadbasket of Ireland, and we highly suggest you get out there and explore.
Then there's Northern Ireland, which has finally overcome the sectarian violence of the last century to become a major tourist draw in its own right, with everything from the iconic Giant's Causeway to the awards-winning Titanic experience in Belfast, and of course, for all you Game of Thrones fans, the real-life Winterfell.
Ooh,
and yes, you can even visit the Dire Wolves.
We've already covered all of our favorite destinations in Ireland in a separate video, so click on this card to watch that next. But stay tuned for all the practical information that you're gonna need to plan your trip, starting with when to visit.
The Emerald Isle is green because it rains. The Romans called it Hibernia because it seemed to be winter all year long. so bring your rain jacket.
Winter all year
To
long.
avoid winter entirely and aim for summer, where temperatures range between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius or 68 to 86
That's my
degrees.
kind of summer.
That's summer, 68?
That is my kind of summer, I gotta say.
Yeah, that's nice.
I would love it.
I mean, 86 is getting on up there, but not compared to here during summer.
I much prefer the milder temperatures in summer.
Yes, me too. But I've heard that winters aren't generally as cold and harsh as they are, say, here.
So it stays more in the mid-range throughout the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like here, oh my goodness, the summer's brutal.
Like there's a point during the summer where you literally just don't even want to go outside.
And then the same thing during the winter, you might have a month, the entire month of January, like you're literally not getting up above like the teens, Fahrenheit.
We always film in the shoulder seasons. We love traveling during the shoulder seasons. And here in Ireland, the shoulder seasons that we recommend you visit in are May to June or September and October, when the weather's still pretty mild, but the crowds are a fraction of the summertime.
When it comes to packing, expect wet weather all year round. So always pack a rain jacket as well as really good
So that's not just a stereotype.
footwear, especially if you're trying to do any sort of hiking, because just a little bit of rain can turn the paths really, really muddy.
You'd have to go do some hiking.
Yeah.
We've seen some of the hiking there and just breathtaking views. I mean, incredible. I think that from what I've seen, Ireland is definitely one of those top spots for hiking. It's just so lush and green, you know what I mean?
It's common to see a couple of seasons in a day. So even if it's sunny when you leave your hotel in the morning, always dress in layers. You can take clothes on and off.
So the weather does change in a dime.
And always pack that rain jacket or umbrella. You'll be thankful if you do.
If you find yourself underprepared, don't worry. There's plenty of shops in Ireland to find that functional and stylish outerwear that you need. We recommend getting started in Dublin with the shops Indigo and Cloth and Makers and Brothers. Also, do not forget to bring the proper power adapter. It's the same one that you use in the UK, and it's different than the one that you use in Europe. Sounds good, right? But how much does it cost? Let's talk about money.
Ireland is technically split into two countries, the Republic of Ireland, which is in the EU and on the Euro, and Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK and uses the British pound. ATMs are widely available, credit cards are accepted pretty much everywhere, but some places like pubs especially will only accept debit cards or cash.
So I'm curious, guys. So you're like near the border, either in Ireland or you're there in Northern Ireland, and you decide to go, into the opposite one. So you're in Ireland, you go to Northern Ireland with your euros. Can you spend them? And if you're Northern Ireland and you go to Ireland, can you spend your, pounds?
I mean, I would say maybe like at some more mom and pop kind of places, they might be more willing to accept the other currency if they live close to the border and they're like, oh, I go there.
Yeah, that's the main thing, on the border.
Yeah, but I wouldn't think it would be that common that you'd be able to interchange.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be no different, I guess, if like we lived on the border of the U.S. and Canada, we go into Canada, we can't just spend our dollars necessarily, and Canadians can't do the same.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Interesting side note, even though the Republic of Ireland uses euros, they still use the slang term for pounds. They still call 20 euros 20 quid. So if you hear Irish people saying 20 quid, it still means 20 euros, even though it's referring to British pounds. Kind of confusing, but if you want to talk like a local, say 20 quid.
Ireland is not really a budget destination. It's not as expensive as the UK or Scandinavia, but it's considerably more expensive than Eastern or Southern Europe. About 100 euros a day should be a proper solid budget. You could get by with about 75 euros a day, but you're gonna be pinching pennies. If you wanna live it up, 150 euros a day should be plenty.
Is that still accurate?
I bet it's not.
I think that, inflation has caused pretty much the entire world to go up. So let us know in the comments what that real budget would need to look like today to not only be able to go there and just like get by, but like to be able to
enjoyable time.
Yeah, to be able to like stay in nice accommodations and eat what you want.
Not top of the line, but like good mid-range.
Safe and good mid-range.
I'm going to guess like 200.
I'm going to say 250.
Oh,
I don't know that.
Mid-range?
No. I'm thinking like you can do what you want. You can, you're gonna be traveling around. You're gonna be eating all sorts of stuff at restaurants and whatnot. I feel like you would need maybe 200 at least, I think. But let us know in the comments what you think the best daily amount of money to budget for a good trip over to Ireland would be.
Your biggest cost is accommodation. There's a lot of options in the mid to luxury range, from charming Georgian townhouses or design hotels in Dublin to palatial country homes in the countryside.
Look at that.
But there are not a lot of really cheap options. Your basic hostel will cost you 25 euros. It's not bad, but it's not as cheap as other parts of the world.
Yeah.
And free camping is not allowed. So if you expect just to pitch your tent anywhere you see a green pasture, you'll be surprised. Might get in trouble with the police.
Alcohol is surprisingly expensive for a country so closely associated with
I would have thought
it
would be cheaper.
So if you are on a tight budget, buy your booze at the supermarket, maybe get a bottle of local Irish whiskey, and, bring a flask. Be a little cheeky, be a little sneaky. You can figure it out. Long story short, you don't have to go out and get blind drunk. If you go to the pub, have 1 or 2 pints, and call it a night.
Meals in restaurants typically cost around 20 euros for lunch, slightly more for dinner. Of course, there are the fast food options like the rest of Europe, from kebabs and curries to the old standby of fish and chips.
There you go. There's my favorite.
He said 20 euros
for lunch, and
is that basically what would that be in US dollars?
All right, so 20 euros would be very close to 23 US dollars. So it's close. Wow. So I'm guessing basically around $20 to $25 for lunch, then per person. Dang. Obviously, with a 6-7-year-old, it would be cheaper for them, I'm guessing. So it looks like to go out for lunch, you're probably spending 50-ish.
Well, that was back when this video
came out. So maybe a little more, but so lunch is maybe $50-$60, and dinner is like for 3 is like 75 or something. I'm guessing.
Steep.
That is steep. So that sounds like that's going to be a huge part of your budget.
Yeah,
you're definitely going to want to have
an accommodation that
with
you
a kitchen.
Cook in.
Yeah, absolutely, and go to the grocery store for at least part of your meals, because otherwise you would be going very much over your budget probably.
And like the UK, most hotels offer a full Irish breakfast.
It's
a really filling breakfast, and it usually comes with a vegetarian option as well, included in the hotel price.
Our tip is to load up on a late breakfast, skip lunch, then find a reasonably priced pub for a quality dinner and a pint. More tips on where and what to eat a little later in this video.
I would say that Ireland is an easy country to get to and a slow country to get around. Let me explain. Ireland is the home of budget airline Ryanair, which has tons of cheap tickets all across Europe, sometimes just a couple of euros. But be aware of hidden charges and make sure that you're traveling carry-on only to really reap the benefits.
It's also the closest European Union country to the United States, which means transatlantic flights are usually quite cheap, especially when you're using Aer Lingus, Ireland's national carrier, or some of the budget airlines like WOW Air, which offer round-trip transatlantic flights via New York City for around $300 US. But if you're going to use these budget airlines, be forewarned, they will get you with checked baggage fees, food.
That was again a while back.
So be prepared.
Getting between cities is very easy. There are trains connecting all major cities, and there are also very cheap buses that you can get for well under 20 euros from like Dublin to Galway. And if you're feeling adventurous, hitchhiking is relatively easy in Ireland. I once did it in the dead of winter to go visit the Cliffs of Moher and then make it back to Galway. It was very cheap, very fun, and very easy.
The soul of Ireland is in the countryside. Rolling hills, small towns, and peninsulas that stretch off into the open ocean on the wild Atlantic Way, a beautiful stretch of coastal road that spans nearly the entire west coast of the country. You can get tons of ideas for your road trip on the website wildatlanticway.com, but our best tip is to find the roads that lead down the finger-like fjords of West Cork. It's truly a beautiful place. Irish roads, many of them, are very small, one-lane, twisty, curvy country roads, and distances take a lot longer to cover in real life.
Especially if you're not used to.
Yes, those are the types of roads I'd like to get lost on.
Yeah, I'll let you drive.
I mean, not too crazy lost, but like I love the idea of kind of just going where I don't know where, going somewhere I don't know where I'm going and ending up wherever that takes me. And then,
meandering.
just checking out different beautiful areas and whatnot. I think that'd be really, really fun. Just getting lost is a lot of fun. As long as you don't have anywhere you got to be at a certain time frame.
Sophia doesn't appreciate it. But.
Yeah, she likes to know where she's going, doesn't she?
Yeah, how long?
Yeah, how long is it going to be?
Than they do on Google Maps. Also, cars drive on the left-hand side of the road, and the vast majority of them run on diesel. So do not put regular unleaded fuel in your diesel rental car, or you will be footing a very, very large bill.
Now that we've covered the basics,
problem.
let's dive into the juicy stuff. Stereotypes, controversies, and the do's and the don'ts of visiting Ireland. Ireland is a wonderful country, plagued by ridiculous stereotypes, many of them admittedly coming from our own country of the United States of America, where, ironically, everyone claims to be Irish on St. Patrick's Day, but we're still plagued by these misconceptions.
Many of our misconceptions about the Irish come from the mid-1800s, when millions of Irish emigrated to the United States and elsewhere to escape the Great Potato Famine, which killed over 2 million Irish.
For instance, it's not true that the Irish sit around drinking Guinness all day. Alcohol consumption is more or less on par with the rest of Europe. The portrayal of Irish as drunkards partially comes from American anti-immigrant propaganda, when nativists wanted to portray Irish as too drunk to work.
What about St. Paddy's Day, you might say? Well, hate to break it to you, but that is a holiday that is celebrated much more in the United States than it is in Ireland. So don't come to Dublin expecting a giant celebration. You're better off going to Boston or Chicago.
Not all Irish have red hair. In fact, only about 9% of them do. However, Irish do have Celtic roots, so their DNA is similar to people from Scotland, Wales, and even the Basque Country in northern Spain.
Nor do the Irish live solely off of potatoes.
the Basque Country.
Sure, the Irish were some of the first Europeans to adopt this Peruvian tuber after it was introduced by the Spanish to Europe, but it was because it was a great source of calories for poor Irish farmers.
And I think the potato grows very well in Irish soil. It's very fertile lands, it makes sense.
But Irish food has evolved so much since then. So on that note, let's discuss the essential foodie experiences to have while you're in Ireland. Ireland's food culture is so good because its geography makes agriculture small scale, local, and family owned by nature.
One of the best places to sample locavore cuisine is Anair Restaurant in Galway, where chef J.P. McMahon uses only ingredients sourced from the west of Ireland to create incredible dishes that will blow your taste buds right out of your mouth. To really get on the foodie trail, though, you need to head south to County Cork, the larder of Ireland, where pretty much anywhere you eat will be local, organic, and absolutely delicious.
I was thinking that too.
Ireland has great cheese because there's plenty of green pastures for cows to graze.
Kerrygold.
We visited the Grabine farm in West Cork, one of the best producers in the country. Their cheeses are available in specialty shops and supermarkets all across Ireland.
Ireland has a thriving fishing industry and some of the best fresh seafood in the world, including their oysters just outside of Galway. Go to Moran's on the Weir just outside of Galway for the full seafood experience.
A classic dish is Irish stew, made with lamb, potatoes, and stout, which is perfect for warming you up after a cold day or a surf in the Atlantic, as we did in Strand Hill at Shell's Cafe, a lovely restaurant with an amazing cookbook, the Surf Cafe cookbook. I've made their Guinness and beef stew recipe many times. It's always a hit with my friends, and this is a great cookbook. Also try the morning pie. It's delicious.
Lastly, we recommend trying seaweed, formerly a staple of the Irish diet, until it became viewed as poor people's food. These days, adventurous foodies are rediscovering the health benefits of seaweed and using it in all different styles of cooking. In West Cork, we joined a kayaking tour where we foraged for fresh seaweed in an incredibly scenic area, then brought it back to shore and ate it for lunch. Did we mention that there's a place called Voya Spa where you can book a seaweed bath? Trust us, this is incredible and it needs to be on your Irish bucket list.
Okay, enough about food. What about
Seaweed
Guinness?
bath.
Guinness is popular worldwide, but you really haven't had a Guinness until you've had one in Ireland. And although the Guinness Storehouse is a great experience, touristic, yes, but awesome, most locals will tell you that the key to a good Guinness is the tap at the pub. Specifically, the lines that connect the keg to the tap. Some pubs have cleaner and better lines than others. Every local has their preference.
It's like a
ask
science.
around and never drink Guinness from a can.
Then there's Irish whiskey, which uses barley instead of corn, rye, or wheat like American bourbon, which is triple distilled, making it a little bit more approachable than Scotch whiskey. Jameson and Bushmills are the two most famous Irish whiskeys, but head to a
I've seen
proper whiskey
1608.
bar like
That's what that is. That's
Shelbourne's
the
and
year it
Cork,
was founded.
which have a much wider selection and can line you up with a proper Irish whiskey tasting.
Speaking of drinking, here's some important do's and don'ts in Ireland, starting in the pub. Do buy drinks in rounds when you're in a group. Everybody takes turns, it will come back to you, but if you buy just a drink for yourself, it's seen as rude.
Don't take offense at Irish humor or salty language. The Irish love a laugh, sometimes at your expense. It's all in good fun, so feel free to give as much as you get. And swearing is pretty common, especially with the word feck, F-E-C-K. It's kind of like saying darn, but with the F word.
Don't battle the crowds to see the Cliffs of Moher. Yes, they are iconic, they are gorgeous, they are truly a landmark of Ireland.
Yes, and they're beautiful. But there are cliffs that are known to be way less touristy, but are just as beautiful. I can't remember the names.
That's usually the case with most tourist attractions.
Yeah. It's kind of like Stonehenge in the UK. You know, everybody goes there, but when you find out there's a lot of other similar type lesser known places that are off the beaten path, it's like 100% want to go to the one that's off the beaten path.
Yeah.
However, they're almost always swamped with tourists and often covered in fog. Instead, head up to County Donegal to see the cliffs of Slieve League. They're higher and far less crowded.
Do take time to get to know the locals, especially in the smaller villages. Locals are usually quite friendly and more than willing to discuss the hot topics of the day in a friendly and cordial manner, no matter how controversial the subject may be.
Don't, and I can't believe I actually have to say this, do not dress up like a leprechaun and expect people to react well to it. And yes, I'm talking to you, sitting in your college dorm room or your frat house, sitting there going, oh, going to Dublin, let me just dress like a leprechaun. No!
Who? I know this happened. It's got to happen, right? You just know it's going to happen, but it's like it's so cringe. Like I can't even imagine having the thought in my head to do that. Like
also, it's very disrespectful to a culture. Like to narrow it down to like a caricature of
it's kind of like okay.
No, do not do this. The same goes for poor attempts at Irish accents or just asking everybody about your last name and where you come from because nobody knows. Okay, there's a lot of people with the same last names and your ancestry is just not that important to the average guy.
Wait, do people? I guess they do. Like they go up to some random guy, hey,
where's my family?
Where's my family? Oh my goodness, that's insane. That's so cringe. I would never do that. I understand there are going to be people that probably do that, but I just can't imagine it. It's what would be going through your head to like make that make sense in your head? You know what I mean? It's just so crazy.
Okay.
On a more serious note, definitely do familiarize yourself with the controversial history of Northern Ireland and Ireland's struggle for independence from Great Britain. Everyone should do their homework and their research before visiting Ireland or Northern Ireland, just to be aware. But the short version of the history is this. Ireland was Britain's first colony and its longest held, nearly 800 years in total. The Republic of Ireland gained independence from Great Britain only 100 years ago, and the mostly Protestant enclave of Northern Ireland remained part of Great Britain and still does to this day.
The last century was full of political turmoil, civil unrest, and innocent bloodshed as the Irish Republican Army battled the British security forces in Northern Ireland. The tit-for-tat bloodshed claimed many innocent civilian lives and turned Belfast into a war zone divided along Protestant and Catholic lines until the Good Friday agreements of the 1990s finally brought peace. There is currently no violence and no border separating the two nations, as both are part of the European Union. However, because Northern Ireland is part of the UK, and the UK just voted to leave the European Union with Brexit, the future of this border remains uncertain.
As a visitor, you have nothing to worry about in terms of safety. Just be aware that the conflict has touched every corner of Irish society and evokes strong emotions still to this day.
Yeah, I can see why.
Do be respectful when discussing the issue, and to state the obvious, don't walk into a bar in Belfast and order an Irish car bomb.
Instead, do consider taking a street art tour of Belfast.
Oh yeah, that'd
It
be
shows
cool.
how Belfast murals, which
We kind of saw some of that in the Cranberries video we watched on. It was one of the first videos we did on Patreon.
Yeah.
And it was for Zombie,
Yeah.
right? And it showed a lot of
Yeah, you see different
like the
different
murals
stuff.
and-
And at the time, we didn't know what the video was about until afterwards, and we were
so we
trying to
looked into
figure.
it a little bit. but-
Yeah, we were trying to figure out like what is all that artwork. You know, it was pretty incredible.
And the meaning of the song and
Yeah.
yeah.
But I wanted to say like, I personally have never known that fight between Catholics and Protestants here in the U.S. And it's hard to imagine that because here, family or Catholic and Protestants and everybody pretty much gets along
Right.
spiritual, religious wise.
Yeah.
There's fights in other ways, but it's just really interesting how there's such a religious divide.
once divided the city along ethnic lines, are now being used to heal the wounds of the past with creativity.
Lastly, do take some time to learn a little bit of Irish Gaelic, a language that
feel like that
predates
goes for
English
most
and is
places
still
you visit.
spoken
Yeah.
widely
Yeah.
in many rural areas and the islands off the coast of Ireland. It's not essential for communication, but the language is closely tied to Irish identity, and most locals appreciate the effort.
Yeah, I can
Here
imagine.
are some useful phrases.
Okay, basic Gaelic, starting with please and thank you. If you're local and you can pronounce better than me, which you probably can, please add your pronunciation tips in the comment section. So please is Ledahul.
Let it hold.
Ledahul.
Let it
Thank
hold.
you is a bit more of a mouthful. It's g r ma a gut. Guramahagut.
Oh,
But the
wow.
most
Mahagat.
practical and commonly used as a tourist phrase is probably cheers. Salanch.
Slanch.
That one's easy. That one's very
Slanch.
useful. And it's a good little start towards your Gaelic learning process.
That's cool.
If all of that seems a bit daunting, here is a very useful local phrase that you can easily wrap your head around. Crack, which loosely translates
Crack.
to fun.
Yeah.
So ask a local, where's the crack? And they'll most likely point you in the direction of the most fun pub in town.
That was awesome.
Very comprehensive.
Yes.
Like they went into
Everything.
every aspect you could do.
I went into this thinking it was going to be like, remember to bring your jacket, it's just some
like
simple
more
stuff
of
like
a
that.
superficial type
Right.
countdown that a lot of people do, and there's nothing wrong with those. But I appreciate this for how in depth it went.
Yeah, I learned quite a bit, including the fact that the Wild Atlantic Way is literally the longest
I know.
coastal
I
road
didn't know that.
in the world. I mean,
Scenic Coastal Highway.
I'm gonna have to look that up. A lot of people have asked us to check that out, and I've been wanting to. It's on the list, but I had no idea it would literally be the longest. That's incredible if that's the case.
Yeah.
I know that Ireland is such a lush, beautiful place, and I can only imagine that a
The
road
scenery.
like that is going to be, incredible.
We would definitely have to do that.
Oh, 100%. Get a camper or at least just drive and just go and drive across country and whatnot. Up the Wild Atlantic Way, through the middle of the heartland, just all of it. See the different scenery and whatnot.
Yeah.
I'd love
Take
to go.
your time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the favorite things I'd like to do is, obviously you got to go places like Dublin and Galway and whatnot, but I'd also like to get out off the beaten path
smaller
and
towns
see
and
those
villages.
small little villages
Yeah.
that no one ever talks about. You know what I mean? and just talk to the locals and visit some of the local, pubs or restaurants and stuff like that.
It gives you a much more accurate picture of the people of Ireland.
Right.
To do something like any country, really.
Absolutely. Getting out of the cities and going out into the heartland, so to speak, definitely gives you a better picture of who the people are.
What it's truly like.
Yeah, and like just in the middle. Yeah.
It's not just all about the big cities.
Yeah, like a lot of people outside of America, they think of Hollywood, Los Angeles, New York City, Boston, but like you get out here in the middle of the Midwest and people here tend to be different.
It's totally different.
The environment, everything about it is completely different. And I know it's like that in every country, including Ireland. But guys, this was incredible.
It really was.
I learned quite a bit. I enjoyed this.
And it makes me excited to hopefully plan a trip there soon,
Yes. Anyways, guys, I think that's it for us today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow us on our journey to discover anything and everything about the UK and Ireland. Until next time, guys. Peace.
Bye.